Before we start our lesson today, we're going to do a quick review. Remember, we are learning about measurement. When we talk about measurement, we want to know the size of an object. So let's take a look here at our first word that we learned, length. You remember this word, length. Now, when we're talking about length, we want to know how long an object is. And the words that we use to compare objects and their length is longer and shorter. Longer means having greater length. That's greater length, more length, and shorter means having lesser length, less length. Or sometimes we can also use the phrase same length when the objects are the same length. Okay? Now, I want you to remember a little trick for the word length. When you think about length, I want you to think about the beginning part of that word, the beginning sound. That's L. So length, when you see the word length, I want you to think of long, how long something is. And I want you to put your hands out here because when you see, when you want to measure the length of an object, you're going to measure it horizontally with a horizontal line. If you look here, underneath this girl, you see a line here, a yellow line that shows you horizontal, how long something is. It's going this way, okay? Now I want you to take a look at this picture here of this net, okay? When you look at the net, are we measuring length or height? That's right. How do you know? That's right, because there's a yellow line under it going horizontally that tells you that you are measuring length. Now look at this picture of the ant. Are we measuring length or height? That's right. We're measuring length. And how do we know? That's right, because you see a yellow horizontal line, okay, to show that you are measuring length. Remember, when you're comparing the objects, you're going to use words like longer, shorter, and same if you are measuring the length. Now let's go to height. Height. Now for height, I want you to look at the word and look at the beginning. That's an H. And what sound does it make? That's right. So I want you to think of height. Put your hand up in the air. Height. When you are measuring height, you want to know how tall something is, how high something is. And the words that we use are taller, shorter, and same height when we are comparing the height of objects. So taller means having greater height, that means more height. Shorter, having lesser height, that means less height, shorter. And the same height means the same. So I want you to take a look at the picture here, okay? You see the yellow line now going vertically, from top to bottom. That means we are measuring height. When you see a line going from top to bottom, we are measuring height. So remember, whenever we're measuring length, we use a horizontal line for how long or how short something is. And height, we use the word taller or shorter or the same height to compare height. But remember, high, your line has to go vertically. The line is going vertically. You measure going this way, okay? Very important for you to remember that, okay? Very good. So I want you to think about that when you are thinking about length and height. Very good, boys and girls. Hello, boys and girls. Now that we've finished our review, we are ready for our lesson for today. Now, remember, we are learning about measurement. Let's take a look at today's essential question. How can you compare the weight of two objects? So I want you to take a good look at this word here, I'm sorry, I needed my marker here. Weight. That's what we are going to be talking about today. Weight. When we talk about weight, boys and girls, we are talking about how heavy or how light something is. Okay, so for example, if I take this book here and this block here, or it's a cube actually, this cube here, which object do you think is heavier? Which object do you think is heavier? That's right, the book. How do you know that the book is heavier? That's right, because you can see that this hand is lower than this hand, which means that this hand here, this book here is weighing down because it's heavy, okay? It's being pulled by the gravity here because it's heavy, okay? And this cube here is lighter. It's not as heavy. I could move my hand here. This one's a little harder to move because it's heavier. So we're going to take a look at the words, the vocabulary words that are going to help us compare the objects of weights. So the first one is heavier. Heavier. Can you say heavier? Good. Heavier means having greater weight. So that means, oh, it's heavier, heavier. Okay? And then we have the word lighter. Lighter. Lighter means having lesser weight. So when I hold this up, it's less weight. This is heavier and lighter. Heavier. See how heavy this is? It pulls it down, and this is lighter, lighter, okay? So those are the words that we're going to be using. You might also use this phrase. Let me show you here. Same weight, because two objects might have the same weight, okay? All right, now we're going to look at a couple of other objects that I have here, and I want us to look at them and try to figure out which ones are heavier and which ones are lighter. So I'm going to take my scissors here. You see my scissors? These are my pink scissors. And a rubber band. Here's my rubber band. Which object do you think is heavier, boys and girls? Yes, that's right. The scissors. The scissors are heavier. How do you know that the scissors are heavier? That's right, because the scissors, when I put them on my hand, they make this hand pull down, okay? It's lower. So we know that these scissors are heavier than the rubber band. The rubber band is lighter. The rubber band is very light. Okay, let's take look at a few more objects. Oh, I have this flashlight, okay? The flashlight, and I have an eraser. You see my eraser? Okay. So boys and girls, which object do you think is heavier? Heavier. That's right, the flashlight. How do you know that the flashlight is heavier? That's right, because you could see my hand here is lower than this one, because this one, the eraser is lighter, but the flashlight is heavier, heavier. Good. Okay, now let's take a look at, I want you to take a look at this, okay? I have an envelope. This is an envelope, and I have a stapler. This is a stapler. Which object do you think is heavier? That's right. The stapler is heavier. Why do you think the stapler is heavier? That's right, because it's made out of metal. But look, I noticed that this object is big and this object is smaller. If I look at them and I measure the length of them, wow, this one is bigger, right? And this is smaller. So why does this still weigh more? That's right, because it's made out of metal. Sometimes, boys and girls, the object could be big and it could still be lighter than the smaller object. That's okay, because sometimes you will notice that. Objects can be big and still weigh less than the smaller object. That's why it's important that you use your hands to compare the weights so that you will know if it is heavier or lighter, okay? And remember, sometimes you could have some things, for example, if I compare these two objects, okay? They are about the same length, okay? But when I take them here into my hands, I can tell that the rubber band is lighter than the eraser. Even though they're almost the same length, okay? I can tell that one is heavier, sorry boys and girls, is heavier than the rubber band, okay? Very good, boys and girls. So we're going to take a look at a couple of more objects, but we're going to use pictures this time, okay? Okay, boys and girls, let's try to compare some objects and their weights. Remember, we're going to use the word lighter and heavier. Now, what we're going to use to compare today are these boots, okay? Now, you see the picture here of the ant carrying the boots, okay? So this is lighter than the boots, and this is heavier than the boots. Now, I did bring my boots here so that you can see them, okay? And that's what we're going to use to compare. So let's take a look at our first picture. Do you see my first picture here? What is this first picture? That's right, that's a bed. So do you think the bed is lighter than my boots or heavier than my boots? That's right, heavier. How do you know? That's right, because I can carry the boots and I probably can't carry the bed. Very good. Okay, now let's take a look at another picture. How about this picture? Do you know this picture? Yes, that's right. That's a birthday hat. Would the birthday hat be lighter than my boots or heavier than my boots? That's right, lighter. And we know, how do you know that? That's right, because you could put it on your head and walk around, and you can't put the boots on your head and walk around. That would be a little difficult, right? Okay, now let's take a look at this picture here. Do you know what that is? That's right, a pencil. Is the pencil lighter than my boots or heavier than my boots? That's right, lighter, okay? Lighter. How do you know? That's right, because a pencil is just skinny, a little piece of wood, and my boots, they are heavy. That's right. Okay, let's take a look now at this picture. This one's going to be a little tricky. Do you know what this is? That's right, that's a kite. Are kites big or small? Yeah, they're big because they fly up in the sky, right? They're really big. Now, do you think that this kite is lighter or heavier than my boots? Are you sure? But a kite is so big. How can my kite be lighter than my boots? That's right, because this kite is light. It's made out of paper or plastic, whereas my boots are heavy because they're out of material that is much heavier than the paper or plastic that a kite would be made out of. So my kite is definitely lighter. Very good. I have one more picture to show you, the computer. Ooh, my computer. Do you think my computer is heavier than my boots? That's a tricky one too, because it depends on what type of computer you have. If you have a laptop and it's a big laptop, it might be heavy, right? And if it's a desktop like this is one would be on your desk, it would be heavy. But if you have one maybe like your school computer that's just a little bit smaller, a little laptop, then maybe it might be almost the same size. But we're going to look at this one, and it is a desktop, so it is definitely heavier. heavier. So I'm going to put that here. Okay. Very good, boys and girls. Now remember, today we learned about how can you compare the weight of two objects. And what did we learn? That you could use your hands, put them on your hands, and you could actually see which one pulls down. That one helps you. You can also think about what the object is made out of, what materials the object is made out of. That's very important to know how or which one is heavier or lighter. Okay? Very good, boys and girls. Good job today. See you next time.